Woo.
Woo.
That was a weak woo.
That was a weak woo. All right.
We gotta start over.
No, this is just...
I mean, we are like laying down in bed right now,
yeah.
so how much of a woo could you expect?
Right. Yeah, I'll edit it later if it really needs it, but I don't think it needs it.
No.
So, okay, this is the beginning, and maybe it's not the best audio quality for the beginning of something, but whatever. You know, I listen to so many podcasts, and half the time they're getting these interviews with some of like the real greats, either in music or something else, and they are using the shittiest. Like, I think half the time they're just using their iPhone straight
to
do recordings.
You never want to just use your iPhone.
But nobody cares. It still gets hundreds of thousands of downloads or whatever. So fuck it. I
That's because nobody has any class and taste, right, Brian?
Well, it's either that or just straight up nobody gives. Yeah, well, you're right. But nobody gives a shit. Like, I really know there's so many people saying, oh, audio quality, and I bought into that too. But now, honestly, I don't think it's true. Nobody fucking cares, because they'll still listen to an episode no matter what. So, anyway.
Well, I don't know about no matter what. If you have shit content and shit audio quality, nobody's going to listen.
Well, that's true.
If you have good content and shitty audio quality,
right,
they'll probably listen.
Right.
If you have... Wait a minute. if you have shit night. Content and good audio quality, they probably won't listen. So audio quality is necessary but not sufficient.
It's secondary.
It's secondary.
I think it's a secondary
content
matter.
Is king.
Right. So we've got some kingly content here. Because, in
queenly
fact,
too.
Queenly, you might even say. And this is the start of a series where I am doing bonus content. It's not the start of the bonus content necessarily, but it is the start of a series of bonus content where you and I, of course, the lovely and hyper-intelligent Dr. Stephanie Murphy here with the Golden Stallion, review hentai.
Oh, yeah. We're kinky motherfuckers.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Right now we're recording this in a hotel room.
Oh, yeah.
We're in bed.
Oh, yeah.
It's late at night, and we just got done watching the first episode of Fencer of Minerva, or, in Japanese, Minerva no Kenshi. That's how you say it. This is... Now, if you don't know what hentai is, I guess that's important in the first place. Hentai is pornographic anime. If you don't know what anime is, well, you've got some Wikipedia researching to do before you finish listening to this episode.
If you don't know what anime is, well then fuck you.
Yeah.
Just look it up on Google.
Right. No,
that's what you basically just said.
DuckDuckGo. But yes, that is what I said. So,
I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody knows what anime is, and if they know what anime is, they also know what hentai is.
Well, they might not know hentai, but
well,
they
I
better
didn't know
anime.
what hentai was. I knew anime. Like, I remember anime was like a fad in my high school.
Oh, in the 90s?
Yes.
Huge deal.
It became really popular, and I had seen anime, but I never got into any of the anime that was popular in the 90s. Like, I mean, I knew some of it because I was friends with some people who liked it, but I never really watched it myself.
Yeah.
But I remembered like watching anime cartoons when I was a kid, not hentai, but like you know the one about the two koala bears, Blinky and Pinky, and they can like travel through time and shit, and they have this eucalyptus tree outside Sandy's window.
No, I don't know about that at all.
Okay. Well, it was a dumb cartoon. I think it was called like the Noozles or something. It was like was
it just animated or was it actually?
No, it was anime.
It was anime.
It was. They had like this. It was all the elements of anime. So they had like the faces with the giant eyes and tiny other features.
Okay.
They had the characters.
Well, yeah, I mean they're koalas.
They had the like the like zoom in and out on like a still shot instead of animating certain parts of it.
Right.
They had like when someone was traveling through time, it would just be like the character on like a background of stripes and like spiraling the camera around.
Yeah.
Like, really low budget stuff.
Well, I mean that's good to save money. Yeah, that's budgeting.
But that's part of anime. That's what makes it anime.
Yeah, to some degree. Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
It's animated and it's drawn in a certain style and it's low budget and they do these camera techniques to save money on animating them.
Yeah, now this whole thing doesn't need to be too long, so because we'll be doing each episode.
Well, I'm rambling.
No, you can ramble away. I'm just letting people know that this isn't going to be like 2 hours or anything. But we will be doing each episode of this series. But yeah, so with anime, Stephanie, you never watched like Dragon Ball Z or Cowboy Bebop or anything like that. I mean, you've heard of them, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Cowboy Bebop because there's a person I know in real life that reminds me of Cowboy Bebop.
Oh yeah, okay. We won't mention them.
I've told him to his face.
All right, well, I'm going to beep that out.
Okay, fine.
So,
sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry, Master. Oh my God. Can you forgive me just this once?
There it is. So, yeah, I mean, I guess my watching anime kind of started with Sailor Moon. I'm still a huge Sailor Moon fan. I still catch Sailor Moon Crystal and all that.
I used to watch Sailor Moon.
I mean, it was on where I lived growing up. Like the bus came really early for school, and Sailor Moon was on at like 5:30, 6 a.m. Like it was on some stupid early morning time in the morning, but. Yeah, anyway, eventually, when I got kind of old enough, and you would get carded. Like, I'd go to the store called FYE. A lot of people might remember that. It stands for Your Entertainment. I think they're probably out of business now, or they got bought out, but used to be able to...
I remember that store, and I never knew what it stood for.
Right. So, back then, in the 90s, this would be 96, 97, 98, and so on, you couldn't... the idea of downloading video files was completely fucking impractical. Nobody was doing that. Like, now you can get hentai, whatever, you torrent it, it's no problem. But back then, I mean, this was kind of rare stuff. And maybe the most famous series was La Blue Girl. And,
oh, yeah. I had a friend who really liked that one.
Yeah, we'll get to that, because there's a lot to that one. And but anyway, the first one that I ever bought, myself, and this is when kind of DVDs really started coming into prominence, and VHS was still a thing, was Fencer of Minerva, and which we mentioned is what we're going to be talking about. And even though it originally came out in 1994, it probably didn't hit U.S. shores until some time after. But it was the first one I ever saw. And, real quick, I mean, like, I think when people think hentai, they instantly think tentacle porn.
Yep, that's what I thought.
Right. This series
didn't have any tentacles.
Like no tentacle porn. Now we've only watched the first episode so far. I mean, I've seen them all before, but you and I have only watched the first episode so far. There's 5 of them. The first one's called The Encounter. And before we get into, and I mean, with anything I do, I shouldn't have to say spoiler alert because I don't give a shit about spoilers. So if you want to go watch it for yourself, listeners, please feel free. But there will be spoils to the plot here as we go along each episode. But I guess, well, all right, I'll start off with just like the rough plot. And the plot is that it starts off with a boy and a girl. The boy is a prince, very young boy, very young girl. And there is a coup going on in the land where this boy is the prince of, and his father, the king, ends up getting killed. And the prince, to put an end to his line, has to be killed as well. But the prince gets away, falls off the side of a cliff. He gets a cut on his face for it, but he gets away.
He survives.
And right, and but the
princess thinks he's gotten killed.
Well, the prince has a friend at the time.
I fucked it up.
No, well, that's fine.
Bleep that out.
The prince has a friend at the time, who her father is actually the guy who's the head of the coup.
Yes.
And who ends up becoming king.
Yes.
Okay. And that's kind of central to the story. Her name's Diana. The prince, his name is Sho. And of course, Diana thinks that Sho dies at this point. And it ends up fast forwarding quite a bit later on. And Diana is set to be married off by her brutish father, the king. With this other guy, this other king of Gupta. And she kind of, she's rebellious, and she goes off. She pretends she's a man, and she goes off into the, into among the commoners or whatever. And eventually,
she goes to like a marketplace.
Yeah, and at this marketplace, they're selling off slaves. And you figure this out pretty quickly that in this land of Doria and the overall land where there's these nomads and all this stuff, it's largely kind of a it looks sort of post-apocalyptic with swords. No real sorcery, but definitely swords and, kind of medievalish stylings.
I thought it was like medieval.
Yeah, it definitely comes off as medieval. Like, the only thing, it doesn't look necessarily like, it looks like Earth, but you have these horses that are bipedal. They look like something from the movie Wizards in the 70s.
It looks like the
looks like a tauntaun.
The Never-Ending Story.
Maybe. You might be right about that.
I don't know.
I'd have to think about my Never-Ending Story.
Well, it's definitely a little bit fantastical.
Yeah, it's fantasy.
It's sort of medieval. And they can, the other thing that I was surprised by, because a lot of anime is made in Japan, right? It came from Japan.
Yeah.
But the characters were not Japanese. They were basically European.
Yeah, but that's that's commonplace.
Okay. So they have anime of white people, even though it's made in Japan.
Absolutely. Yeah, okay. 90% of anime that you watch is white people.
Oh.
And this comes from largely an obsession with Betty Boop.
I can see that, because her eyes were big too compared to the rest of her face. Oh.
Yeah, there is an obsession. So the history of anime kind of shows the history of sort of a Western invasion, or a Western cultural invasion into Japan. Mm-hmm. One thing that I don't know if you noticed, Stephanie, before we get into what you actually thought of the whole episode at first. One of the things that a lot of people, when they see not just hentai but Japanese porn in general, one of the things that usually shocks people is that you never see genitalia. You'll see boobs, but generally you don't see. And recently they've loosened up on that. You can see actual pubic hair, but generally all genitalia, pussy and penis, are totally fuzzed out or pixelated out. Mm-hmm. Okay, and this is true in animated. In hentai, as well as in full-on Japanese porn. Or they just don't show it at all. Now, the reason for this is it comes from the Meiji era in Japan, which this was late 19th century to 1912, 1913, something like that. And at the time, there was this Japanese Reformation that was happening. Guns were coming into play. The samurai were starting to fall by the wayside and all this. So the emperor at the time, there was this huge Reformation, and he brought in a lot of Victorian culture from the quote unquote Western world. Mm-hmm. And because of this, there was a real prudishness. Mm-hmm. That came along, even though most people know that in Victorian times it was actually quite the opposite. There's just this historical narrative that things were prudish, but really it was quite the opposite for most people. So anyway, so that this idea that you can't have this immorality. I forget the name of the exact law in Japan, but the idea was that you can't show anything that would hinder the morality of the public good. So genitalia is off limits. After World War II, when America started, doing another Reformation, effectively, or it caused a Reformation in Japan, of sorts. For whatever reason, the U.S. changed a whole ton of laws in Japan, but for some reason they felt no need to change these laws around, public decency. Even though they changed so much else. So it stuck. Recently, in very recent years, there has been some loosening, no pun intended, on on these restrictions of what you can see in a porn. If you ever do see a Japanese porn where stuff is not pixelated, generally that's because it was either
There's
meant
a US
for
version.
It was meant for foreign distribution, or it was an underground production. So those are things to consider when you see this, and this is true for hentai as well as live action Japanese porn. So for those that have always wondered about that, that's the reasoning.
Really interesting.
Yeah. It's all 100, 150 year old
clearly,
nonsense.
It didn't stop anyone from becoming a freak.
No, well, and that's what's stupid is that so you can't see the pussy and you can't see a dick, but you can still see a woman, getting fucked, to no end or whatever, or you have these massive orgies and whatever else
There's
going on.
There's a lot of content you can show that is creatively, even more freaky than showing a dick.
Yeah. It really does. Obviously, like most regulations or I mean, they don't make any sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. So there's a little bit of history there. But then, during that second time around, that American culture kind of invaded Japan, Betty Boop was a sensation. And such a sensation, not just amongst kids, it was a national sensation. And that explains why animation is taken so seriously in Japan. That's another important thing to understand, is that, in America, generally, when people think of cartoons, they think of it as kid stuff. In Japan, not at all. Some of the highest drama, their versions of NCIS or The Wire or whatever, are animated. And it's taken just as seriously as any live action thing would be anywhere else in the world. So that those are important things to to really understand on all of that. So anyway, so this is Fencer of Minerva, or Minerva no Kenshi is this is straight up porn. This is not like, oh, they made this to mess with the children of Japan or something like that, to degrade their morals or anything. No, this is designed.
No, it's an adult thing.
It's an adult thing, and it's designed because it's animated because animated is perfectly mature and adult in Japan. It's a very important thing to understand. So anyway, we got a lot of that history down. We won't have to cover that again in future entries in the series, but I thought it was really important to kind of get that out there. Again, the tentacle porn thing, that's why Stephanie, I wanted to start with Fencer Minerva with you. First off, because it was my first exposure, and it kind of made me a fan. I'm not saying I agree with everything that gets done with it, but then I don't agree with, I love Star Trek, but, let's face facts. It's a Starfleet's a tyrannical system. I mean,
military dictatorship.
Yeah, it's a military dictatorship, but that doesn't mean I don't enjoy Star Trek. So even though there's things that are in this that I might find deplorable in real life or whatever, hey, it's fiction. I get it. I enjoy it. There's lots. We're going to be getting into other series. We're going to do La Blue Girl. We're going to do Bible Black, and maybe some others. Maybe Venus 5. That was another popular one. But anyway, Fencer Minerva. I started with it because it's kind of tame. Other than, like, I don't know if you said it already. Maybe you said it. I think you said it off mic. It does have kind of this pseudo quasi BDSM aspect to it.
Oh, it's not quasi.
It's not quasi.
It's definitely
straight up
BDSM.
Yeah, but it doesn't have any of the tentacle porn, and I don't. If I remember correctly, it also doesn't have any like hermaphrodite demons or sex changes or anything like that, which some of that stuff starts to come into later
too.
series.
Okay, thanks for warning me.
Yeah, something to, I mean, and that's kind of, just the last point before we get into what you thought of it. That's sort of, I think, the real attraction to me about hentai is that you can do the impossible. And,
I think that's very valuable, to be able to do things that you wouldn't be able to do with actors, or at least like, I guess you could do things sort of similar with CGI, but it's way lower budget, and it's just like, it's obviously fake, it's obviously fantasy.
Yeah.
Like, no real actors were harmed in the making of this or whatever.
No, not at all. Right. And so it's...
Voice actors, on the other hand.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in many ways, it's a safe and expensive way of showing things that, generally are only, specters of the mind.
Yeah, and it can go really over the top.
Right. And, and not that, I mean, to get into, just a little more history, I mean, like, tentacle porn is not new to Japan. Mm-hmm. Like, there's old paintings, from 200 years ago.
Oh, you showed me that.
Where, an octopus is, eating a woman's pussy. I mean, like, this has been a part of their culture for some time. Mm-hmm. It's not that oddball of a thing. But anyway, so let's talk a little bit about it. Fencer Minerva, first episode, the encounter. Stephanie, what did you think of it? You get into, I don't think we mentioned, you get into the slave girl aspect. I mean, there's all this different stuff. What did you think? Okay,
so my overall first impressions were, it's cute, and I can see how people get really drawn in, mm-hmm. especially if they like BDSM or if they like some of the themes that are in it. They're like, oh my god, this is something for me. Like, no literature and no movies like there's nothing else like this that resonates with me so much. You know what I mean? I can see how some people, I can see why some people get really into it.
Yeah.
I thought it was cute. I thought the voice acting was pretty bad. It could have been way better. That bothered me as a voice actor.
Yeah, you're right. You're a professional voice actor, smvoice.info.
And I've never done anime dubbing though.
Right. Would you do that kind of work?
Oh yeah, okay. Sure.
Nice.
But it's hard work though. The thing is, like, I don't think it pays very well. That's the thing.
Probably
it's
not.
Low budget all the way around, and so they can't get like a ton of voice actors. And a lot of times, there's this big thing going on in the voice acting world right now, where with like video games, voice actors are expected to do like many different characters in a day. Like sometimes they have to do dozens of different characters, the same voice actor.
Yeah.
To make all these different voices, and they have to do like these death rattles and screams and just things that are really hard on the voice. And definitely watching that, it seemed like the same voice actor was playing multiple parts. Definitely,
that happens.
At many points, they probably only had a cast of like maybe 3 people max doing all those voices. So
yeah,
you know, so I can empathize with that. I can see why it's maybe not the best, and maybe it doesn't have to because it's cheese, and that's fine.
Right? Yeah, I love the fact that it's over the top. You know, just to touch on the voice acting part, this is sadly kind of commonplace in hentai, especially. I mean, in Japan, there's you have a guaranteed market that you're going to do very well with. So they can spend money on decent voice actors in Japan. Like if you watch it in Japanese with the subtitles, you definitely get a much better range of acting. When it gets ported to America, you have a very small, very specific market that you're reaching, and you know your numbers that you're going to get.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you generally don't hire the best actors. You know what I mean? Like
it's probably people doing it for free, or like.
Well, not exactly. I mean,
maybe close to doing it for free.
Yeah, I mean, there's one actor in particular that played Sho. Crispin Freeman does, no relation to Ian Freeman, thankfully. But
oh please, with all the voluntarist Freeman Rothbard sovereigns out there.
Yeah, I don't think Crispin Freeman's an anarchist.
None of them are even Freemans.
That's right. Crispin Freeman's a real Freeman. And he did Alucard in Hellsing. Some people might recognize him from that. He's a genuine, like, star as far as voice actors go. He's the real deal. He goes to conventions and all that stuff. So they did have, their top character, that being Sho, did have, a major actor, a major voice actor in the anime world behind him. But yeah, you're right. I mean, most of the time when you get the, when they do the English dubbing, you're not getting the best voice acting. And so you kind of have to either ignore that.
Well, it's part of the whole thing because you're not getting the best animation either.
No,
there's
definitely
so many
not.
Parts where there's like still shots and they go back and forth between the same drawing. It's like, it's not like the animation keeps going. It's like they rewind it and then fast forward it and rewind it and fast forward it.
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, and this is classic. This was done, like, particularly in science fiction, 20, 30 years ago, where you use, stock footage of, like, in Battlestar Galactica, you'd have a Viper. They'd keep using the same shot from 3 episodes ago of a Viper going into turbo, going by. Or in Star Trek, where, they get hit by a proton torpedo of some kind, and they have to, the actors just kind of like shake themselves a little bit, but the camera shaking is what does the trick. And in anime and hentai as well, sometimes more so, you get the same thing where like a still shot, perhaps with like little lines moving, all of that is used to, save money on the budget and just try and get the point across, and it's not a big deal.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay. So going on, the voice acting kind of took you out of it at certain points.
Yeah, there were a few points where it did sort of take me out of it, but I mean, I can appreciate the cute story, and I'm curious to see where it goes.
Yeah.
The porn aspect or the adult aspect, there were some sexy parts of it.
Yeah. So
generally, it's not my preference. Like, BDSM is not really my thing. So I didn't find a lot of the slavery stuff sexy, and I was kind of scratching my head at some points. But I get it. Like, I get it. I can appreciate how some people would find it sexy.
Yeah.
And yeah, there were, like, I guess it was cute to see, like, I don't know, like, some of the sex scenes were funny because, like, it would be like a hand, like, rubbing a boob. Mm-hmm. And then it would be like this horrible voiceover saying, like, oh my God, oh, stop, oh, I'm so embarrassed, oh my God. Like,
yeah, so, like...
Oh, stop torturing me.
Yeah, like, a major part of the whole story is the slave trade.
Yes.
And, like, women are treated as slaves.
Uh-huh.
And, like, there's points where they have to do slave training. And, in fact, it's all women. So it's this giant lesbian kind of orgy that goes down where, you know, these women are getting trained. And they're trained by, you know, does that feel good? You know, and all this stuff. And
no, it's like a BDSM thing where they're like, the slaves are like abusing the other slaves.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, so you said you could see where people kind of find this sort of thing, like, hot. I mean, was there any part of it that maybe got you a little excited?
I really liked when Diana dressed up like a boy and saved the virgin girl from being sold into slavery.
Uh-huh.
That was awesome. That was my favorite part.
Okay.
But that was pretty, like, non-sexual, actually.
Well, that was kind of cool, right? Because, like, she's, you know, a woman, and she was actually, like, really, she was winning. Like, she was taking on these dudes.
Yeah.
And
that was awesome.
Kicking butt, yeah.
Yeah. That was my favorite part.
So none of the sex.
It didn't super turn me on, I have to be honest.
Yeah.
I could appreciate it, but it wasn't like I wasn't like rubbing my pussy while I watched it or anything. You know?
No. I was rubbing your. I mean, yeah, right. No, none of that.
No, you weren't. We were just watching it.
Yeah, we were fully clothed. So okay, I mean, maybe in later entries, you know, maybe there'll be something that might get you a little randy. But you know,
I mean, it was cute. I like the story, but like, I don't know. My relationship is so weird with like things that, like, I guess BDSM type things. Like, It's like when you see someone and you're like, I'm not attracted to her, but I can see how she's pretty to some people. You know what I mean? Like, I can see how this would turn some people on.
Yeah. I
can appreciate it in that way, but it doesn't super do it for me. But I can sort of get into it a little bit, but it's just not it wouldn't be something I would seek out. It's not really my preference or my thing.
Okay, so is that because of the anime? Like, it's because
it's
animated?
It's because of the BDSM themes.
It is the content.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
That's fair.
The anime itself, yeah, I guess that's a good question. Like, it's just so bad. It's just not very. It's so far removed from like real
reality.
Sex. You know what I mean?
Well, you never even see a dick or a pussy, really.
Yeah.
Which we explained why, but yeah.
It's cute when the characters like dive into each other's pussies and things like that.
Yeah,
I like
you definitely know what's going on.
Yeah, I like that, but it's more like cute than sexy. I don't know.
Okay.
Like, it's more of like a story with kind of cute, like, creative sex scenes, but it doesn't super like turn my crank or anything.
Right.
And I know, like, also the look of the people, like, they definitely have this look that's more like dolls. I don't know. It's like a Barbie doll or something. It's not like a real person.
Sure.
So I know I could never have sex like that. You know what I mean? I can never have sex with a cartoon character, and I can never be a cartoon character having sex.
Right.
So it's a little bit harder for me to get turned on by something by seeing cartoon sex.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So, like, you know, but just for clarity, I guess, like, say the story was really, like, say it was a really well done story, didn't have the BDSM aspects, didn't have any of that, you know, it had what you like.
Yeah.
You know, maybe there's a lesbian, you know, wild time or something, whatever going on in it. Like, do you think you could get turned on by that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Okay. So, like, hentai could do it for you if the story was right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, something I've always wanted to do would be like to make an animated Atlas Shrugged.
Oh,
And just let it go full
that's
hentai
a
when it
great
needed
idea.
it. You know, when Hank and Dagny, like, you know, Dagny's like, take me like an animal or whatever.
Such a good idea.
Yeah.
You should totally do that.
Yeah.
I'll be a voice actor.
I'll
do all the voices.
Oh, I'd love to be. I mean, I'd voice act in that shit.
Oh, you do great.
Yeah, give me Hank Reardon. I'm ready to go. But anyway, so yeah, so that could do it for you. It's just that, like, the content of this wasn't exactly, like, you know, your pick of the litter.
Yeah, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I appreciated it for what it was.
Sure.
It didn't make me so horny that I like had to do something about it immediately. You know?
Yeah. No, I mean, we do that anyway. We don't need hentai or porn for that.
Well, there's nothing like you showed me a softcore porn a while ago.
Yeah.
And that made me so horny that I had to fuck you right then.
Yeah.
But
you can repeat that if you want, but no, go ahead.
But this wasn't. Hey, this is bonus content. They're paying for it. What do you expect?
Yeah, exactly.
Had to be a little bit more revealing.
Right.
But this didn't do that for me. This didn't make me feel so horny that I had to immediately relieve my sexual tension. But I thought it was a cute story, and it was kind of cool to see the porno aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still a story in a cartoon, and I don't know. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you know, I mean, like, softcore porn in the 90s in America, like, I still think that's some of the sexiest stuff just ever done.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing.
I mean, it's really something. I mean, I was about to say, I almost feel privileged being able to, you know, be there on the ground floor, you know, this would be in the 90s, when such great softcore was being made and put on Skinamax, you know? And then you had, like, various aspects of, you know, of hentai finally coming to America. Mm-hmm. And, you know, for me, with Fencer of Minerva, like, I used to be, and this was, you know, this is when I was a teenager, pretty much, you know, not far removed from when I first saw this. I used to be really into what's called the Korean lifestyle by John Norman, which he has these books called the Gore series, mm-hmm. G-O-R. He has other ones. He has the Telnarian Histories and a whole bunch of other stuff. He wrote a book that was really popular in the 70s called Imaginative Sex, which I could imagine inspired a lot of hentai. But anyway, I felt like this was a very Korean, like this might be the best thing you could ever see that could show off the Korean lifestyle. Now, part of the Korean lifestyle, you know, can definitely reflect certain aspects of BDSM. I don't appreciate, you know, that's not my thing.
What is it, like a combination of like a Renaissance fair and like a kink BDSM thing?
Yeah, it's kind of a
slavery and
sort of a nomad, like, yeah, and it gets wacky because, like, you have a family stone that you have to, you know, like the house stone that you have to protect and all. I mean, I would do a terrible job and I'd have to talk about it for a while. But it gets into, like, clans and all this different stuff.
Oh, you got clans and tribes, okay.
Yeah. There's, like, I mean, the books are, John Norman's still writing these books. Like, I think book 35 comes out in August of 2016.
Wow.
I happen to own all of them, but whatever. Anyway, it's I mean, it, you know, it's definitely cliche shit. Like, it's not deep, meaningful writing of any kind. I mean, you could, you know, if you want to make the argument that it's pretty libertarian, in some ways it is, especially since some libertarians... Except for the
whole slavery thing.
Well, most libertarians don't have a problem with slavery. You know, Walter Block and a lot of others, they think it's perfectly fine. So, but yeah, no, I agree with you. Like, that the slavery part doesn't make any sense to me either. So, anyway, I mean, with just a little bit of the rest of the story, pretty much Diana, that you mentioned, the princess who escapes, mm-hmm. But ends up, you know, she becomes kind of the property of this nomadic tribe. Sho happens to be riding into town, you know, and meets up with this nomadic tribe. And after a duel with the chieftain of this tribe, she the chief of the tribe ends up giving Diana to Sho
as his slave.
And she, remembers they remember each other from childhood. Eventually, they recognize that they're each other, and she effectively wants to be his slave.
Yes.
And there'll be more to the story around that. Part of that could be because she just, she knows that her father's wish is for Sho to be dead. Like, that was the original wish. And so if she is Diana, she feels like that she would have to, to obey her father's wishes, she would have to kill Sho. And so she accepts a life where she is not Princess Diana at all.
No, instead she's a slave.
But I think, like I said, spoilers, run rampant. Will run rampant throughout this entire hentai series that we do. I think it'll be interesting when you see future episodes how all this shakes out. So, but at the end of the day,
there's some women who would love that. Like, they just want to be treated like a dirty little slave who has to do whatever you tell them to do, right? Wouldn't they secretly love that, even though they're saying, "Oh no, don't do that."
I mean, do you think there are women that genuinely want that?
Yeah, there are some.
Mm-hmm.
Not me, and not every woman certainly, but
yeah,
there are some who would say that yes, they do want that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've certainly heard them.
Yeah, they probably like really identify with that character, because she's a princess, so like she has servants of her own,
right?
But she hates her life. She's like unhappy. She doesn't like being a princess, and she doesn't like her dad, and she wants to like get away from that all and just do the complete opposite. So that's why she goes to this market, and then she ends up like getting sold into slavery.
Yeah, or captured into slavery.
From the other side, and she discovers that she likes it way better than her boring princess life.
Yeah, so
that's her shitty dad. I mean, because it's funny because she actually is kind of a slave to her dad anyway. Because her dad's gonna like marry her off. So she was always under the control of a man anyway. She's got daddy issues,
right?
So
yeah, if you're gonna really psychologize,
why not choose a man to be under the control of instead of your dad who you didn't choose?
Right. Even though when she's a little girl, she's talking about, no, I don't want to be a slave. I want to be a princess. But then,
right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that covers the pretty much the whole story and all that. And Stephanie, you said you could appreciate it. I mean, like, the final verdict for you is that you could appreciate it.
I'll watch the next one. Yeah. I want to watch the other ones.
Yeah, for what it is what it is.
Yeah.
Not exactly your cup of tea, but then this series kind of takes some twists and turns. So I think it's a great starter. Like, have you ever seen hentai before?
Not like a full-on one.
Not a whole thing.
Really. I've seen, I guess this doesn't count, but I've seen like graphic novels and like comics that are like in the style of hentai.
Oh, yeah.
But they're not animated. They're just they're just still comics.
Right.
So that's kind of the closest thing I've seen.
Now I've seen you looking at those things.
Oh, yeah.
And you admitted you were getting turned on.
Oh, those turned me on. Yeah.
Yeah,
they
you were
really
digging
did.
that shit.
Yeah, there's this one, what is it, Oglaf or something?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's the one. It does take place in like a medieval castle kind of setting, and it has like sprites and fairies and like magical creatures and ogres and things like that. And the thing that turned me on about it is just like everybody's fucking everybody. There's gay sex, there's like all kinds of group sex, there's all kinds of one-on-one sex, there's all kinds of gay, straight, bisexual.
It's just wild.
Yeah. Lesbian,
I dig that too.
Threesomes, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what turns me on is like, hey, everybody's getting busy.
Yeah, no,
doesn't matter what you got, just everybody's with everybody.
Everybody's getting their freak on.
Yeah.
And then it just looks so freeing, perhaps, or liberating, or...
Yeah, and also the fact that I think one of the things I liked about that was that the characters show no shame and no inhibitions. And I often wish that I could feel that way about sex.
Yeah.
Like, I do have some shame and inhibitions that wish I could get rid of. Even though I try, I'm fairly educated. This is something I've been thinking about for the last 15 years or so, maybe longer.
Yeah, for lack of a better phrase, I think you're playing on a higher level, perhaps, than most people.
I don't know. I try. I mean, I try to be self-aware in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still do have some shame and hang-ups and inhibitions, I guess.
Yeah.
And when I see the characters just absolutely showing no inhibitions at all and just enjoying it and just going for it, it's like, yeah, I like that. That's the spirit. I can do that too.
That's the way.
Yay.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all right. So here's another quick question.
Yeah.
And we'll wrap this up. What are we running on? Oh, holy shit! We've been going 40 minutes.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I was just thinking maybe that's one of the things I didn't like about this because the characters do have shame, and again, I can see how that resonates with some people.
Yeah.
Because they do have like sexual shame and stuff, and they see it reflected in the characters. But
yeah.
The characters in the like, you know, some of the women, like, as they're having orgasms and they're getting pleasure, they're like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I'm so ashamed. Stop it. Oh, it feels so good. Oh, stop it. You have to stop right now.
That's the seduction, you see.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that doesn't fall in with your, like, you know, being free of ridiculous mores, right? You know, mores.
Oh, I don't know. It doesn't really, I don't know.
Not your bag.
Yeah. I don't know how to explain it. It just doesn't feel necessary to me, you know, to have the characters saying like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. Holy shit. Like, I can't believe I'm doing this. Yeah.
Right. So, all right. So, like, let's say, I don't know, let's say you're with a significant other.
Uh-huh.
Not saying me, but, you know, whoever, whatever.
You're my significant other. You're my only significant other.
Oh, I love you, gorgeous.
I love you.
So let's say, you know, just whoever, you know, this is just an abstract kind of thing.
Okay.
And you see them either jerking off or rubbing one out, you know, guy or gal, whatever, to watching something like this. I mean, what do you think? Like, I mean, would you be like, what the hell, or, you know?
No, I wouldn't judge them for it. I'd be like, yeah, let me watch with you.
See, that's the thing with a lot of like, I know a lot of people who they say, it's like, you know, this person jerks off or jills off to hentai. It's like, what the fuck's wrong with them? And it's like, you know, there's a lot of judgment around that.
I think it was like maybe a little unusual, but not that unusual.
Yeah.
There's certainly worse things they could be jerking off to. Like,
that's the thing. Like, I mean, you know, me, if I saw that, like, if, you know, I saw you or whoever, you know, jilling off to it or something, like, I'd be like, oh, right on, you know, that's cool. There's some things where I'd admit that if I saw somebody, you know, getting off to, I'd be bothered.
Yeah.
You know, like people are into like that murder play shit, and if somebody was watching a video of that,
I don't think anyone's really into that.
I don't know.
Maybe there's like a few people in the world.
Yeah, but I can think of, you know, some crazy shit that if I saw somebody watching a video with it and, you know, they're just having the time to it, I'd just be like, you know, not judging. I am judging. Straight up, I'm judging. Like, sex positivity can go too far.
Let me say this.
Yeah.
I would rather see a partner jerking off to the hentai that we just watched than to some of the like misogynistic, like shitty straight guy porn that's out there.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
No, fair enough.
I've actually had people, anyway, yeah, I hate that shit. Like, porn where real women are being treated like shit and like humiliated and like abused and don't look like they're having fun. That is the worst turnoff to me, you know?
Sure.
Whereas in an anime, when the female characters, there's actually no real actors that are harmed in the making of this production, you know?
Yeah.
And the female characters are like, oh, I'm so embarrassed, but it feels so good, and, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just cute. It's not like...
100% scripted,
I'm
no
not
question.
worrying that anybody was actually harmed in it, and so... Yeah, like, what's the harm in watching it if it turns you on? Yeah. It's not my first choice for getting me off, but if I saw a partner enjoying it, I'd be like, yeah, I could get into that, sure. Why not?
Fair enough. So this is, you know, so would you say your first experience watching like a full-on hentai, positive or negative? Positive.
It was fun.
Cool. All right.
It was fun.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I'll just say again, I'm a fan. I don't have, there's not a particular series that, like, is the perfect thing I've ever seen, as to where I can think of some, like porn films where I was like, oh yeah, that is right on the money. But yeah, I enjoy it. I think there's some good shit out there. And we'll review quite a few of these. This will be a whole series again. There'll be multiple episodes to come. We'll cover each episode of these series. And maybe we'll get into some movies, Demon City Shinjuku, things like that. Is there anything else you wanted to say on the whole thing, Stephanie?
I feel like I've scratched the tip of a weird iceberg, and I like it.
And you like it. Yeah, there it is. So anyway, of course, yeah, I think that covers it. This is the first time we're doing this, and we are doing what time is it? It's past midnight. We're in a hotel. We're literally laying down in bed. And
this is fun. This is fun. We get to do not only do we watch it, but we get to do a podcast about it.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know if the others will be back in the studio to do some of these or whatever. But anyway, don't hesitate, of course, to share your feedback, what you think about these episodes. Just go to contact.zog.ninja, and there's the forum for it. And, just mention, hey, listen to your, the specific episode for members, about hentai and, about Fencer of Minerva, and let me know what you think, and I'll definitely be doing more of this. So, because you guys are great.
Yay!
Sovereign Tech members. I haven't thought about like what do you call that? Like I know how Brett has some people have the AV club. They have all this. I have to figure that part out.
Sovereignty.
The Sovereignty are wonderful. So all you guys and gals are just fantastic. So thank you so much for your contribution, and I hope you enjoy this content. And there's plenty more to come, all for you to download and enjoy.
More to come.
Oh, there's so much more to come. Excuse me.
Maybe if they have like a movie they want us to review, a porn,
you can send
movie or hentai movie.
Right.
Send your suggestions to Brian.
Yeah, you can send your suggestions, and I'll assume that if you send me the suggestions, you are a subscriber, because otherwise you wouldn't know that we were asking for your suggestions. So if you have a particular one that you want to hear a review of, lay it on me, or lay it on us. And I love having you here to do this, Stephanie. This is wonderful.
Yeah, I'm with you, man.
Yeah, woo. All right.
I mean, if they're gonna pay us to watch porn, shit, like, okay. Well, give me your money.
The hard life. Speaking of hard. Anyway, all right. So, Carpe Lucem, everybody. Stephanie, of course, thank you so much for doing this with me. And why don't we have some more fun? And we'll see all of you on the other side.
Oh, I want to be your master. Are you... Is everything okay? Do you forgive me? Master, I'm
yet.
So sorry. I'm not worthy of existing. Oh my gosh, I want to serve you.
All right. I'm going to cut the mic. Cutting the mic. That is, it's party time. All right. See you later, everybody.
You just experienced Sovereign Tech. Go to sovereigntech.com, that's SOVRYN tech.com, and connect with us there. Find links from today's show and catch our podcast feed. Sovereign Tech is copy heart. Copying art is an act of love, and love is not subject to law. So please share the show however you like. Welcome to the evolution.